Okay, so we've all used it 1,000 times a day. That simple white page, that colorful logo. But have you ever really stopped to think about what's going on behind the scenes? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on how Google search really works. Let's dive in. It seriously feels like magic, right? You type pretty much anything you can think of, hit enter, and boom, in less than a second, an answer appears. How is that even possible? That's the big question we're going to unpack. All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at how Google builds its mind-bogglingly huge digital library. Then, we'll get into how it actually sorts through all that chaos to find what you want. After that, we'll see how the search results page itself has changed. And finally, we have to talk about the controversies that come with being this powerful.
Okay, first things first. Before Google can answer anything, it has to do something that sounds kind of impossible. It has to read the entire internet, or at least as much of it as it can get its hands on. This is the absolute bedrock of how all of this works.
The secret sauce is something called indexing. You got to think of the internet as this gigantic, chaotic library that's growing every single second with no card catalog. So to make sense of it all, Google unleashes this army of little automated programs called Googlebots. They just crawl the web 24/7, hopping from link to link, reading everything, and sending it all back to be filed away in one enormous searchable index.
And the scale we're talking about here is just staggering. Get this, by 2012, and that was over a decade ago, Google had already indexed more than 30 trillion web pages. It's a number that just breaks your brain. And you can only imagine how much it's grown since then. This isn't just a big library, it's a planet-sized archive.
But here's the part that's going to really blow your mind. That colossal index, those trillions and trillions of pages, that's probably less than 5% of the entire internet. Yeah, the other 95+% is what we call the deep web. All the stuff behind paywalls and private databases, things Googlebots just can't get to. So Google has built this absolutely insane library of information. But, having all the books in the world doesn't help if you can't find the right one. How does it sift through trillions of options to give you the best one, right at the top, in a split second? Well, answering that question is what made Google, Google. The big breakthrough was this algorithm called PageRank. And honestly, it's a beautifully simple idea. It basically treats every single link on the web as a vote. So if a really important, trustworthy page, like, say, a major news organization, links to another page, that's a huge vote of confidence. The more of those high-quality votes a page gets, the more important Google thinks it is, and the higher it ranks. And this right here is exactly why Google completely crushed the competition back in the day. See, before PageRank, old search engines were pretty dumb. You could trick them just by stuffing a keyword onto a page a million times. Google totally changed the game. It started caring less about what a page said about itself and way more about what other respected pages said about it. It was a massive shift from just counting keywords to actually measuring credibility. But PageRank was really just the beginning. Today, the algorithm is so much more complicated. We're talking over 250 different signals it uses to rank a page. Things like how fast your site loads, if it works on a phone, how fresh the content is. The exact recipe is one of the most closely guarded secrets on the planet. And of course, it's always evolving. A huge leap forward came in 2013 with an update called Hummingbird. This is what taught Google to understand the meaning behind what you're asking, not just the individual words. It's the reason you can ask a full conversational question and get a real answer. And as the algorithm got smarter, the way Google actually shows you the answers started to change in a big way. So, for years, all that incredible complexity behind the curtain produced a very simple result, a page with 10 blue links. But we all know that's not what a Google search looks like anymore, right? Not even close. You can really watch the results page transform over time. Back in 2007, Universal Search started mixing in images, news, and videos, because hey, sometimes the best answer isn't a web page. Then in 2012, we got the knowledge graph, that little box that gives you a direct answer so you don't even have to click. And now we've got AI overviews trying to summarize the entire web for you right at the top. And this is the absolute key point. There was a fundamental shift in strategy. Google's goal isn't just to be a signpost anymore, pointing you to the best website. The goal now is to be the destination, to give you the answer right there, keeping you on Google's property. And that has some pretty massive consequences. Which brings us to the most important question of all. when one single company becomes the front door to pretty much all of human knowledge. What's the price of that kind of power?
To really get what's at stake, you have to understand just how dominant Google is. We're talking about over 90% of the entire global search market. This isn't a competition. For most people on this planet, Google is the internet.
And that level of dominance has put them in some serious legal hot water. In a landmark ruling in August 2024, a U.S. judge found that Google actively maintains an illegal monopoly over search, violating antitrust laws. So how does a company maintain that kind of monopoly? Well, one of the main ways is by paying incredible amounts of money. Court documents revealed this wild fact. Google pays Apple 36% of all the ad money it makes from Safari just to be the default search engine on every iPhone. We are talking billions and billions of dollars every single year.
And the criticisms that stem from this dominance are serious and wide-ranging. You've got major concerns about privacy, with Google tracking so much of our data. There's the huge problem of algorithmic bias, where search results can actually reinforce human prejudices. And in Europe, regulators have already fined Google for illegally favoring its own shopping services over its rivals.
And so it all leads us back to this one final critical question. We started this whole journey seeing Google as this magical tool that finds information for us. But we have to ask, is it still a neutral window looking out onto the web? Or has it become the web's most powerful gatekeeper, shaping not just the answers we find, but the very reality we see? Something to think about the next time you hit search.